Well, you're watching World News live from Warsaw. My name is Sasha Farbach. Polish President Karol Nawrocki said that Poland and Latvia share a firm conviction in the need for strong Euro-Atlantic cooperation, as well as a continued U.S. presence to safeguard regional security. Nawrocki shared these remarks during a visit to the Latvian capital, Riga, on Thursday.
Here in Latvia, in Lithuania, in Estonia, in Poland and in Romania is where the security of the European Union begins. And yet the European Union delayed action right up until the meeting in The Hague, before starting to raise its defense budgets. Today, our countries are models in terms of allocating budget resources to increase security. We heard that Latvia will budget 5% next year, Poland close to 5%, so the American security strategy cannot be a surprise to anyone who has followed President Donald Trump's statements or has spoken with President Trump personally, as I have on several occasions. A man who takes responsibility, including shared responsibility, for the security of the whole of Europe and, in fact, for the security of the entire world. These are the clear guidelines in this security strategy, which say America first, which was President Trump's campaign slogan.
The Polish non-profit Demagogue has published a report detailing anti-Ukrainian propaganda online between August and November of 2025. The organization reports a massive surge in anti-Ukrainian sentiment on social media. Compared to the previously measured period between April and July, the number of anti-Ukrainian posts on social media has risen by a staggering 98%. That's nearly 190,000 posts. The reach of such posts has more than doubled to over 66 million views. Social media platform where most of these posts originate from is Elon Musk's X. More than 92% of all anti-Ukrainian posts measured by Demagogue come from the site, which is also responsible for over 60% of their reach. Accounts belonging to politicians from far-right parties were also found to have created and/or shared content pitting Poles against Ukraine and its people. The largest surge of anti-Ukrainian posts happened when Poland's President Karol Nawrocki vetoed a bill that would have assisted Ukrainian citizens. We move to Ukraine, where civilians under fire from new Russian air attacks and fighting surging on the front line. Ukraine is racing to secure Western backing for a reworked peace proposal delivered to the United States after high-level talks with European officials.
As Ukrainian citizens are terrorized by airstrikes and Russian soldiers ramp up attacks along the front line, Kyiv delivered its own peace plan to the US after President Zelensky's meeting with French, German and UK leaders earlier this week.
Clearly, the three European leaders, they had a major input into what is acceptable, what can be presented to the Americans as a new proposal.
The new plan has three elements that differentiate it from the recently presented US proposal.
So number one, 28-point plan became 20-point plan because, things that Ukrainians couldn't accept were getting rid of for now. Then number two, it's about the security guarantees, and number three, it's about the reconstruction.
There is no doubt that it will be rejected by Moscow.
Well, we already know the answer. It's no. It's exactly the way how Ushakov, Putin's diplomatic aide, responded to any modification to the original Russia-US, let's call it this way, peace proposal.
But it is the US which seems eager to disengage from the European conflict as quickly as possible that Ukraine is trying to convince with the revised peace plan. Its specific details are not yet known, but the broad strokes of the proposal are to include NATO Article 5-like security guarantees for Ukraine, the country's EU accession by 2027, or creation of a demilitarized zone.
Speaking at a special gathering of the Munich Security Conference in Berlin on Thursday, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said that NATO allies are Russia's next target and called on the alliance to prepare for a, quote, scale of war our grandparents and great-grandparents endured.
We are Russia's next target. And we are already in harm's way. When I became NATO Secretary General last year, I warned that what is happening in Ukraine could happen to allied countries too. That we had to shift to a wartime mindset. I fear that too many are quietly complacent. Too many don't feel the urgency. And too many believe that time is on our side. It is not. The time for action is now.
Ukraine and the European Commission have formally unveiled a 10-point reform plan that will steer Kyiv's EU accession bid over the next 2 years. Ministers meeting in Lviv say Ukraine's membership remains on track and inevitable, despite Hungary's objections. Angela Skujins was in Lviv and has more.
The EU will not waste any time advancing Ukraine's EU accession bid. These were the words from the EU's enlargement chief, Marta Koz, in Lviv at the tail end of talks centring on whipping up support for Ukraine as well as its application to join the European Union. The war-torn country launched its bid in 2022 following Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. However, its progress has been stalled by a stubborn bloc spearheaded by the Hungarian Prime Minister, Viktor Orban. However, a 10-point list of reforms has been cooked up by the Ukrainian government and the European Commission. Ukraine has 2 years to complete this list, which aims to put the country in good stead to join the EU when and if Hungary drops its veto. Let's take a listen to what the European Commissioner for Enlargement, Marta Koz, said about what this list entails.
They all focus on strengthening the rule of law, fighting corruption and building the strong, accountable democratic institutions in Ukraine. And these institutions Ukraine needs for the future accession process.
Strengthening the jurisdictions of Ukraine's major anti-corruption institutions, which sat at the centre of a political maelstrom weeks ago, also feature as part of this list. TVP World managed to ask the Ukrainian Deputy Prime Minister for EU Affairs, Taras Kachka, about the importance of Ukraine joining the EU and how this is a security guarantee to deter future Russian aggression.
We need to be united, and that's why it is clear that this is like utmost necessity for Ukraine to be together with the European Union.
26 out of 27 EU affairs ministers were present in Lviv for these talks on Thursday. The Hungarian EU affairs minister János Boka rejected the invitation when it was circulated weeks ago, sending his ambassador to represent the Central and Eastern European country in his stead. What is clear is that while Ukraine has 2 years to complete the 10-point reforms, there is no telling when the Hungarian government, led by Prime Minister Viktor Orban, will drop its bloc. Angela Skujins from Lviv for TVP World.
Despite having campaigned on an anti-EU platform, the Czech Republic's newly appointed Prime Minister, Andrej Babiš, made his first foreign visit to Brussels on Thursday. He met with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen this morning, and then after with Belgian Prime Minister Bart de Wever and European Council President Antonio Costa. Discussions are said to have centered around Europe's competitiveness and support for Ukraine.
Andrej Babiš's first destination as the new Czech Prime Minister, Brussels, is an interesting choice given he campaigned on the Eurosceptic platform during parliamentary elections in October 1st. He met with Ursula von der Leyen, a meeting that was described as cordial by both parties, where they discussed Ukraine. Babiš did campaign on stopping all Czech support for Ukraine. It has to be noted as well, though, that he is not completely ideological about this, and he's willing to support private companies continuing their links with the Ukrainian military and government. He's also due to meet with the Belgian Prime Minister, de Wever. An interesting choice, given that right now the debate about using frozen Russian assets to fund Ukraine is raging across European capitals, where de Wever has been vociferous in stating that he does not support this. Babiš does not have a specific position on this issue, but as he said, he does want to stop all Czech aid to Ukraine in its entirety. Will they have an agreement, I think, a coming together of minds? We don't know yet. Babiš is also due to meet with Antonio Costa, where they will discuss Ukraine, and it's also expected they'll discuss the ETS2 emissions trading scheme. Babiš and his government partners, the motorists, are very keen to see that stopped and are going to introduce legislation to that effect. And migrant pact issues are likely to come up as well, given that the new Czech government wants to severely limit asylum applications in the country. So from today, which is December 11th, to the confirmation of a new Czech government on December 15th, and the visit of Babiš back to Brussels for European Commission on December 18th, we will learn a lot more about the new Czech government's view of its place in Europe. The TVP World in Prague, Andrew Sweeney.
That's all for this World News Update. Stay tuned right here. News in Depth is next. We'll discuss all the latest of the crisis in Bulgaria. Thank you. Stay tuned.